Hello, friends. You are going to think that this is so funny. Today is a Yaya day. So it's the one day a week where my mom watches Max, and I just think it's so generous that she does that for us that I like to bring him up to her house as often as possible. So right now I am in my little sister's old bedroom, and there are now two beds in here because there are three grandchildren. Two beds in pack and play. So it's just, but this had the quietest space, and yeah, so we're going to do this workshop from this place today. So our Body Love series is, just in case this is your first time watching, it's a workshop that happens every single Wednesday in the afternoons usually, and it's our Body Love series, at least for this month, and we'll see if that's how we want to, the direction we want to continue with in January. But the whole purpose of this, of our group, Transforming Wellness, is just for women and a few men, I believe, to have a place to really start to shift the way we think about our bodies and shift the way that we think about wellness, so that it's not all about weight loss or getting a tiny waist or having thinner thighs or fitting into skinny jeans or Transformation Tuesdays. It's about actually loving the person that you're becoming. And the trick is, and I call it a trick because it's the thing that no one's talking about, but it feels magical once it happens. Once we begin to love who we are, once you love who you are and develop that compassionate relationship with yourself, you start to shift the way that you behave, that you act, that you eat, that you move, that you breathe, that you sleep. And you begin to look the way you always wanted. You begin to weigh what you want and to love the reflection that you see in the mirror. And that doesn't mean that you will be a stick figure. It doesn't mean that you will lose 25 pounds in 21 days, because all of that is bullshit anyway. We know that all of that, excuse my language, it's stuff that doesn't last and isn't good for us, not physically and certainly not in our soul. So the purpose of this group and of this series, this workshop series, is just to help us, to empower us all to start treating ourselves with more care, more love, more compassion, so that when we do start to feel shifts in our lives, when we do start to lose the weight, when we do start to behave in the way that we always hoped we would, care for ourselves in a way that benefits our entire life and our family and our bodies, that those shifts actually last. I know so many people, I know so many people who have done the Whole30 or the 21-day fix, or gone on a keto diet, or started like a Pure Barre or Core Power, that 1 month, the first month membership, and they feel really good. Like, right, we get into this really great groove and feel so good, like, oh, we're finally building that momentum. And then the Whole30 ends, or the 21-day fix challenge group is over, or the introductory month ends, and it's kind of like a then what? Because if you only change your actions, at some point you're either going to burn out, or life is going to happen where your mindset hasn't caught up with you yet enough. And again, the cool thing is once you start to change your mindset and take little actions that demonstrate that mindset shift, you're able to make any sort of transformation stick. So the key, at least from my perspective, from the women that I've gotten to work with and from my own personal journey, is that mindset matters far more than any of us are talking about, probably because it's not as sexy as the lose 25 pounds in 21 days, right? It's hard work. That's a big part of it, but it's work that I am fully confident that you can do. But it takes that, it takes kind of that gumption, guts, really the courage to do it. So today in particular, we're talking about the 3 simple changes that you can make right now so that you start feeling lighter before 2019, before the new year. And I do mean physically, because I use this term fluff, like when I feel like I've gotten into kind of like a tough habit with eating, and my tough eating stuff usually is surrounded by stress. I'd say stress is a big one for me. that I start to feel like fluffier in some areas. And some people talk about this as feeling bloated, which could be a similar or different thing. But I believe that our physical bodies and our emotions are so intricately connected that if we can also lighten how we feel emotionally and tune into the things that are really rubbing us poorly or rubbing us in a really tough way, we can start to lighten the guilt that we feel, or the not enoughness, or that we don't have enough time or energy or money or all of the things, right? Groceries. And if we can lighten the emotional stuff, we can also lighten the physical stuff. So within these tips that I'll give you today, these just 3 simple steps, these 3 simple tips, my hope is that you'll be able to walk away feeling a little or a lot less stress, feeling some stress relief within this crazy holiday season. You'll also be able to feel less of that fluffiness, less of that kind of bloating feeling sensation, and that you'll also begin to build some momentum for 2019. Whether we have rejected goal setting completely and new year, new me stuff completely, or whether we really find power in it, I think subconsciously we have this idea about January. And if you can start to just give yourself some positive things, some positive self-care tips and tricks, there we go, you'll be able to feel some momentum whatever you choose to do in the new year, whether it's really subtle and gentle or whether it's just a powerful 180 sort of shift. So the first thing is, and a few of these things are exactly step for step what I teach in my breakthrough program. The first thing that we can do is, and it's so simple, right? And you've heard this a million times, so I'll just start with the simplest of simple, is to drink about 100 ounces of water per day. And there's a calculator. If you just Google how many ounces of water should I be drinking in a day, you can use a calculator for your weight. But in general, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you drink about a cup of water every other hour. You will keep your body really hydrated and regular throughout the day. The reason water helps so much, it honestly helps so much with bloating, especially if you can drink warm water at the beginning of the day, is because it does keep us regular. It also gives us so much more energy than coffee, and it kills me to say that because I love my coffee. I love it. And I don't understand why coffee can't be hydrating. I mean, it's mostly water anyways, right? But if you can, so I shared this the other day, what I started doing at the beginning of the day, instead of having coffee immediately, which is what I would prefer, I have 1 glass of warm water with a lemon. And then before I have anything else, I have a cup of green tea. And what I realized in doing this, and this will tie into step 2, is that when we become aware of our habits, positive or negative, that's when we can start to change them or enrich them, enhance them if they're positive habits. But what I realized is I do love coffee for the caffeine kick. I mean, I'll admit that. But what I love even more at the beginning of the day is it makes me slow down. I mean, after my son has milk, and yes, we still breastfeed. I got just torn down by a friend the other day by still breastfeeding my 2-year-old, and let's stop judging each other, okay? Anyway, after we breastfeed, he's like running a mile a minute. And what I like is that my hot water helps me to ease into my morning. And then when he's having breakfast and I'm having my water or tea, I can just sit there with him and enjoy his company, where otherwise I'm thinking, okay, what do we have to do next? We have to be to daycare in like 75 minutes or 15 minutes, or how are we going to rush this along? Or what are we doing today? It's so easy to get wrapped up in the to-dos and the future, or to get fixated on past things that have happened. And that hot cup, for some reason, I feel like it just slows you down in a magical way that allows you to just be present with the people you're with, or present with yourself. Before I had Max, there was it sounds crazy, I did a pre-pregnancy cleanse, and it was the same thing where I had a glass of lemon water every morning, and I took time to like journal and meditate, and it was just me at that point, and I still didn't take the time to do that until I had that hot cup. So that could make such a big difference. And then throughout the day, drinking water and just setting a timer on your phone so that every other hour, like that's not pressure at all, right? Like every other hour, have 8 or 10 ounces of water, and then by the end of the day, after 10 or 12 hours, you will have had 100 ounces. It won't feel like you're waterlogged or drowning in it. You will be more regular, you will have more energy, and you will just feel better. I'm sure that you've also heard that oftentimes when we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. And I'm not in favor of restricting yourself or starving yourself in any way, but again, awareness is such a big part of, it's such a big part of the ability to fall in love with the body that you live in. Because if we're aware of what we're doing and how we're contributing to the health of our body, not the skinniness of our body, the health of our body, the strength of our body, the fluidity, the gentleness within our bodies, we're able to make positive changes with feeling far more empowered. So drinking more water, I guess you could say is step one, but I would say that we could kind of parse that out a little bit more by having a glass of warm lemon water or a glass of tea, a cup of tea, just something to kind of start your morning really gently. Also, it's just really gentle for your system to have something that's lukewarm or a little bit warmer to ease you into the day, rather than like shocking you with an ice cold drink of water or a really heavy breakfast or a smoothie. I wasn't sure if my son was sneaking in. And then throughout the day, just setting a timer so that every other hour you just have a cup of water, and it'll become really natural after a while. By the way, I'm not talking about sparkling water. I have a really sad fact about sparkling water. It actually dehydrates us. It's not that great for us. The carbonation, it adds a little more acidity to the body, and ultimately this is a whole nother conversation, but we want our body to be in a more alkaline or balanced state. But I believe in everything in moderation. But I'm going to go have my glass of water after this, I swear. Step number two, to kind of start feeling lighter right now and into the new year, is it's awareness. And I'm going to break this down in a really simple way. But this could go in so many different directions. It could be taking time to journal at the beginning or the end of your day. It could be taking time to journal just a little bit before your meals. But one thing that can make a huge difference with minimal effort is to just, before you eat a snack, and I'm talking eating those snacks that you do while you're just standing in the kitchen and you're like, this doesn't count for anything. I'm just going to munch on this for right now. Or sitting down to eat a meal. That one thing that you can do that's so simple is just to take 3 deep breaths. And this is also something I've talked about before, but what that does is, first, if you're like me and you tend to snack or like search for food that you otherwise wouldn't when you're feeling stressed, it takes our nervous system out of that fight, flight, or freeze mindset framework and brings our nervous system back down to a more relaxed state, so we're just more clear and we can make more conscious decisions. And this isn't to say that you won't then have the snack, but it's just to say that when you do, you'll enjoy it. How many times have you unwrapped a chocolate and eaten it and you don't even realize that it happened? And that you're conscious that you're eating it, but you didn't even taste it. Like, you didn't enjoy it. You were doing it while looking at the computer or scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, or maybe even like reading a book. Taking a moment to just take and release 3 deep breaths brings your nervous system down to a really relaxed state. It allows you to be present in your body, and it allows you to enjoy the thing that you're eating. Because if we're always rushing through our meals, if we're always rushing to cram stuff in, or if we're not taking the time to just be present in our bodies for a small thing like chewing our food, it's really easy to, I don't want to make this all about weight, but it's easy to become overweight and not even realize why it's happened. And so when I watch women, it's the women who keep weight off after we've worked with them, and that's been their like number one goal. The women who keep it off are women who are willing to have the courage to become aware of not only what they're eating, but why they eat and when and how they're triggered in certain ways. My breakthrough program it's tricky because I think people who are attracted to it are people who either want to lose weight or just want to have a reason, like a push to take care of themselves. But the hard work in it, it's such positive, transformative work, but it's definitely not for everybody because it requires that mirror for you to hold a mirror in front of yourself and say, what do I need to change? Not what does this program or this diet or this cleanse need to do for me, but what choices am I making that make me feel so rushed or feel so stressed or feel so guilty and then feel like I need to restrict them? Like, what patterns have I participated in and how can I let go of those and engage in more practices of awareness and presence and freaking compassion? So if you challenge yourself over the next 7 days, and I would love for you to challenge yourself just over the next 7 days to take 3 deep breaths, or even 1, before you eat. And it doesn't have to be before every bite, but before every start of your snack or start of a meal, or even before you sip something. Just taking 3 deep breaths. It takes less than 20 seconds, but it will change the way that you nourish your body. It will change the way that you eat, and you know, if the fitness and wellness industry could market that as a thing, like as somehow for people to pay for that, I think whoever could market that would be rich, just because it's such a simple thing. I won't say easy, it's simple, and it will melt the pounds away. I mean, it's insane what that kind of awareness can do for you. The third step, so step 1 is to just set a timer on your phone and drink a cup of water every other hour. Super simple. Step 2 is to take 3 deep breaths before you eat, before you begin a snack or a meal, any and every snack. And step 3 is to challenge yourself, we could say, to have a plant at every meal. I think that, and by plant, I mean a fruit or a vegetable, something that came out of the ground. It could also be a seed if you wanted to kind of stretch it, like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, perhaps nuts, but I'm specifically talking about like plants that are leafy and like so nutrient dense. So fruit or vegetable at every meal. And again, what this does is, I heard this great quote the other day, and I feel like this could be a whole talk, a whole training or workshop within itself, but just essentially that in the ECFE classes, the early family childhood education classes that Joe and I go to with Max, we learn that, you know, when disciplining your child, if you're constantly saying, no, 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 don't do this, don't do this, do this, that just gets frustrating for everybody, because kids can, you know, they focus on what they're not supposed to do. So a lot of times with Max, if I, you know, I'm trying to think of something I don't want to do. I'm sure there are a million things, but if I can instead redirect him and say, oh, the Christmas tree, because we have an upside down Christmas tree, and he likes to push it sometimes because it sways. If I say, don't push the tree, that's just annoying for everyone in the room. But if I say instead, oh, well, we can look at the tree, or we can try to hang this ornament, or we can talk to the tree, or we can go over here and build something with Legos. Thinking of what we can do instead of what we can't do allows us to focus on the possibilities rather than be like, don't eat the chocolate, don't eat the chocolate, don't eat the chocolate, right? Because then all you want to do is eat the damn chocolate. So instead of saying, cut this and this and this food out of your diet, out of your life, focusing on having a fruit or vegetable at every meal will start to bring awareness to you and help you to notice where you lean towards more processed meals, or you lean towards like a lot of meat and very few plants. It also keeps you regular, just like the water, where if we're stuffing our bodies with cheeses and meats and processed stuff, it's really hard for our bodies to move that through our systems, where fruits and vegetables, that's like their job. It's like the Drano in a very non-chemical form to help regulate our systems, and it helps to keep us hydrated as well. So having a fruit or vegetable at every meal will help you start to kind of reframe your meals and think of, well, what do I have in my freezer? What do I have in my fridge where I could do this? And a really easy example lately, 2 of them, is I've just been roasting chicken and just throwing like 2 or 3 vegetables in with the chicken that I've been roasting. So maybe carrots or onions or kale or zucchini. I mean, there's a huge range. And also when I make eggs in the morning, instead of just having a plate of eggs and toast, I chop up spinach and I put it in with the eggs, because I don't feel like I can taste a huge difference. And it also feels a little bit richer to me, and I feel better afterwards. So as you do these things, as you make these 3 little shifts, or maybe you just take one of them and make that your goal from now until the new year, just notice how you feel. And that's the beauty, I think, of this group and the advice that's offered within it, is that there's no one prescription that's going to fit everybody. And that's a huge red flag that we talked about last week, when you hear somebody say this one thing will fix every body type, every mindset, this will work for everybody. That's a huge red flag. And what I love about the way that we talk through wellness within this group is just that every body is so different, and if you can become aware of what works for you, what feels good for you inside your body, what tastes great to you, and doesn't leave you with a sugar hangover or gut rot afterwards, what gives you more energy, what makes you feel nourished, if you can find those things and make those adjustments over the next 2 months, 3 months, over the next year, you'll begin to notice the changes in your body that you have been craving and wishing for me, it was for 10 years, wanting these changes. And it wasn't until I was willing to get real about my patterns, get real about what I was avoiding, and also get real about how I wasn't treating my body well. Once I did that, I was able to lose the weight that I had always hoped I had, but that I always hoped I would lose, but it helped me to really love and appreciate my body through a pretty painful pregnancy. I had a hip thing happen where it felt like my hips were dislocated. Through the postpartum period, where your body is just all of a sudden a lot fluffier and really strong in certain places and not so strong anymore in other places, like it feels a little new and unfamiliar. And I really think that if I hadn't had that compassion, that deepened sense of compassion before that period, that would have been really hard for somebody who yo-yoed for 10 years. So my hope for you in going through this Body Love series is just that you will find a way, if you know, maybe take away one thing, one new habit that just feels really really nourishing or enlightening or engaging, or makes you feel like you're at home with yourself again. And it also helps you slowly build up this pattern of compassion, so that as you choose different fitness paths or eating paths or wellness paths or self-care paths, as you choose how you want to live your life in different areas of your life, you can choose it with far more compassion and far less guilt. So I would love to know if you feel like you have the kind of oomph within you, the courage within you. I would love to know what one step that you're going to take, 1 to 3 steps if you're feeling up for it, that you're going to take from now until the new year. And also the goals that you have, the goals that are kind of on your mind, that you're playing with, that you're toying with setting for the new year. Because if you're able to start articulating those before that silly January 1st day hits, it can be really helpful in deciding the direction you want to move in, if you're able to kind of chew on your goals a little bit more before we get there, before 2019. So I'd love to know the goals that you're thinking about and the one step that you're taking away with you today. Also, if you feel like you need some extra support, never be afraid to send me a message, just a private message. And I will also post I've been talking a lot about the Breakthrough program, and it's not open yet, but if you want to get on the wait list, I'll post the application below. And I would love to talk to you more about it. I'll pop in this group later on, probably early January, to talk about the specifics of the program. But essentially, it is for any woman who wants to heal her relationship with her body, weigh what she wants, and transform truly from the inside inside out in a way in which she is able to maintain any results she gets. So rather than having a path where you lose weight, I teach you through the breakthrough how to lose the weight or hit the goal or live in the way that you have been hoping to live, but how to maintain that lifestyle and how to maintain the weight loss and how to maintain the compassion within you. And we do this through a process of 6 beautiful weeks and modules that involve meditations and yoga and one-on-one and group coaching. I mean, it's such a beautiful process. So again, it's not open yet, but if you'd like to get on the wait list, I'll post that below. And yeah, and we'll see you hopefully again next week. Again, our Body Love series is every Wednesday. If you have any questions that you especially want answered, again, post those in the comments below, and I'll either get to them next week or I'll do what I can to answer them in the comments. All right, have a great day, everybody. It's always so tricky to press the finish button.